Okay, I'm going to go over your numbers and I'm just going to pronounce them. And then I'm going to go back and explain to you how to, well, let's just go ahead and start pronouncing and I'll explain. Okay, so 0 to 9, cero is 0, uno is 1, dos is 2, tres is 3, cuatro, 4, cinco is 5, seis is 6, siete, siete, perdón, 6, 6, siete, 7, ocho, 8, nueve, 9. Then you go over here, 10, 10, 11, 11, 12, 12, 13, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15. And then starts our pattern. Just like in English, how we don't have to learn tons of numbers, where as we get to higher numbers, we start actually combining numbers we've already learned. The same thing happens in Spanish. So if you have 16, what 16 is really 10 and 6, which would be 10 y 6. Okay, and 17 would be the same way. That would be 10 and 7, which would be 10 y 7. And 18 would be the same thing, 10 and 8, which would be 10 y 8. Okay, now if you look over here, you'll notice that's not exactly what they have written there. What you can do is you can actually change your Z to a C and your Y to an I, and you can mush the two letters, the two numbers together, making a compound number. So you can write it either this way, which is the old way, but it's preferable to do this and write 10, change that Z to a C, change that Y to an I, and then add on 6. And here that would be 17. And down here that would be 18. Okay. You'll also notice that I put an accent mark over this E. Whenever you're making a compound word and the second number is of one syllable, you have to add an accent to the first vowel. So when writing compound numbers, if the second number is a one syllable word, you have to include a written accent on its first. Accent on the first vowel of the word. Okay. All right. So then if we keep going, we've got 16, 17, 18, which is 18, 19 is 19. Then we come over here to 20, and we have another pattern. Same pattern we had for our teens. So if I want to write 21, that's actually 20 and 1, which would be 20 y uno, all right? And 22 would be 20 and 2, which would be 20 y dos. Or I might have 26, which would be 20 and 6, which is 20 y 6. 20, like 10, can also be made into a compound number. And what you do is you drop the E and change the Y to an I to do this. So what I have written over here is not wrong. It's just preferred to write them together. So that would make this 20, drop that E, change my Y to an I, uno. 20, drop that E, change my Y to an I, and I'm going to have to add in an accent mark because dos is one syllable. And I'm going to have to do the same thing here, 26, seis, because 6 is also one syllable. Okay. Then we move on to the 30s. So let's finish the 20s. I'm sorry. 20, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, 23, 24, 24, 25, 25, 26, 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, and 29, 29. Then we move over to 30. All right. So 30 does the same thing. It has a pattern, but there is no compound number option. So if I want to do 31, it's going to be 30 and 1 and can only be written as 31. Okay, so then I've got 31, 31, 32, 32, 33, 33, 34, 34, 35, 35, 36, 36, 37, 37, 38, 38, and 39, 39. And then the same holds all the way up to 100, 40, 40. So if I wanted to do 42, it would be 40 and 2, which would be 42. No writing anything together, no compound numbers. So 40 is 40, 41, 41, 42, 42, 43, 43. The same thing happens with 50. So if I wanted to do 53, which is 50 is 50, it's going to be 50 and 3, which is going to be 53. Okay, the same thing's going to happen with your, so 50s would be 50, 51, 52, 53. Same thing's going to happen with your 60s. So if I want to do 64, it's going to be 60, which is 60, and 4, which would make the 64. Same thing again happens with your 70s. So if I want to do 75, it's going to be 70 and 5, which is 70, because 70, 70, 75. So if we look over here, 70s are 70, 71, 72, 73. And the same thing happens with the 80s. So if I want to do 86, I'm going to have 80 and 6, which 80 is 80, so I'm going to have 86. And then again, the same thing with the, well, let's go ahead, 80, 81, 82, 83. Same thing with the 90s, so if I want to do 97, what I'll have is 90 and 7, which 90 is 90, so I'm going to have 97. So you have 90, 91, 92, 93, and then 100 is 100. However, oopsies, I can't spell, 100. As soon as I go over 100, if I have 101, I'm not going to write 100 anymore. I'm going to write 100. So that would be 101. Also notice how I don't put an and in there. We reserve the ands for between the 10s and the 1s. And also if I did 120, because I'm over 100, it would still be 100, and it would be 20 without the and. So only write the and or the y between 10s and 1s, not between hundreds or between and 10s. Okay, and one other thing to keep in mind is that your numbers can be used both for counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or they can be used as adjectives to tell how much of something you have, like 1 book, 2 books, 3 books, 4 computers, 5 telephones, and 1 doesn't stay 1 when it's used as an adjective. If you're saying how much of something you have, if you're telling me the quantity of something masculine, it drops its O. And if you're telling me the quantity of something feminine, it changes its O to an A. So if I want one book, it's going to be un libro, not uno libro. And if I want one table, and table is a feminine word, it would be una mesa, not uno mesa. And if I want one male professor, it's un profesor. One female professor, una profesora. And that holds true even in compound numbers. So like if I have 51 books, I'm going to have 51 libros. If I have 101 books, it's going to be 101 libros. And if I have, I don't know, 61 female or 61 computers, it's going to be 61 computadoras. So when you're telling how much of something you have, you're going to use un or una, and that whether you use un or una is dependent upon the thing that you're telling the quantity of. If it's masculine, like books, you're going to use un. If it's feminine, you're going to use unas. And you have to be careful with you have to be careful with 21, because when you're making a compound number, remember you're mushing two numbers together. If the second number is a one-syllable word, you have to write in an accent. Well, when you change uno to un, you've made it one syllable, and so you've ended up having to write in an accent. So it's 21 libros and 21 profesoras.